What if I told you that one conversation, just one honest moment between a teacher and a struggling student, could completely change the direction of someone's life? Not with money, not with connections, not with fame, but with belief. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a teacher who changed one student's life forever, and why this story might change yours too. Stay with me until the end, because the lesson behind this story is something most people only realize when it's too late. We live in a world obsessed with talent, grades, and results. If you're good, you're praised. If you struggle, you're ignored. But sometimes, the biggest transformation doesn't come from talent. It comes from someone who refuses to give up on you. This is the story of a quiet, overlooked student and the teacher who saw what no one else did. In a small classroom, there was a boy who almost nobody noticed. He sat in the back, rarely raised his hand. His test scores were average at best, sometimes below average. Other students laughed when he stumbled over words while reading. In group projects, he was the last one picked. Teachers wrote the same comments on his report card every year. Needs improvement. Lacks focus. Not working to potential. Over time, he started believing those words. He stopped trying. Why raise your hand if you'll get it wrong? Why study if you're not smart enough anyway? Why dream big if everyone already decided you're small? And this is where most stories end. But this one didn't. There was one teacher, not the strictest, not the loudest, not the most famous in the school, but observant. She noticed something different. While other students rushed through assignments, this boy took longer, not because he didn't care, but because he was thinking deeply and carefully. When the class discussed stories, his eyes lit up, even if he didn't speak. One day after class, she stopped him. Not to scold him, not to criticize him, but to ask one simple question. Why don't you think you're smart? The boy didn't know how to answer. No one had ever asked him that before. People told him what he wasn't. No one asked what he could be. That question stayed in his mind all night. The next week, she returned his essay. Normally, his papers were covered in red marks. But this time, at the bottom, there was a handwritten note. You think differently. That's your strength. Don't lose it. 14 words. That's it. But for the first time in his life, someone didn't point out what he lacked. Someone pointed out what he had. And something shifted. He started staying after class, not because he was forced to, but because he wanted to understand more. She didn't give him easier work. She gave him better questions. She challenged him. She told him, I expect more from you because you're capable of more. No one had ever said that before. Change wasn't instant. His grades didn't magically become perfect. He still struggled. He still doubted himself. But now, there was a small voice in his head competing with the doubt. Maybe I can. That voice grew louder. He started raising his hand once a week, then twice. He volunteered to read. He joined a small debate competition, terrified, shaking, almost backing out. He didn't win, but he didn't quit either. And that mattered more. Years passed. That boy who once sat in the back of the classroom went to college. Not the most prestigious one. But he went. He studied hard. He remembered the teacher who believed in him when he couldn't believe in himself. Every time he felt like quitting, he remembered those 14 words. You think differently. That's your strength. Eventually, he built a career. Then a company. Then he started mentoring others. And when people asked him what changed his life, they expected him to mention a breakthrough moment, a big opportunity, luck. Instead, he talked about a teacher. A teacher who saw potential where others saw problems. Here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lack belief. And belief is contagious. One sentence can change someone's direction. One teacher, one parent, one mentor, one friend. We underestimate the power of words because they cost nothing to give. But to someone drowning in self-doubt, they can mean everything. That teacher didn't give him money. She didn't give him special treatment. She didn't lower standards. She raised them. She saw potential and refused to let him shrink. That's what real leadership looks like. That's what real teaching is. And maybe you're watching this right now thinking about someone who once believed in you. Or maybe you're thinking about someone who never did. Either way, here's the powerful part. You don't need a classroom to change someone's life. You might be the teacher in someone else's story. Maybe you have a younger sibling who thinks they're not good enough. Maybe you have a friend who hides their dreams because they're scared. Maybe you even have a child who needs to hear that they're capable. Or maybe that struggling student is you. If no one ever told you this, let me say it clearly. Struggling doesn't mean stupid. Slow doesn't mean incapable. Different doesn't mean wrong. Sometimes it just means you haven't met the right teacher yet. Years later, that student went back to visit his old school. He found the classroom. It looked smaller than he remembered. He found the teacher, older now, still smiling the same way. He thanked her. She looked confused. "For what?" she asked. "For seeing me," he said. She smiled and replied, "You were always there. You just needed to see yourself." If this story moved you even a little, take a second right now and think about the people in your life. Who needs encouragement? Who needs belief? Who needs someone to say, "I see your potential"? Be that person. And if you enjoyed this kind of meaningful story, make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful life-changing stories. And comment below the name of a teacher or mentor who changed your life. Because sometimes, the smallest words create the biggest futures. And sometimes, one teacher can change everything.